Okay, so now our application is running. You can see we have the login screen and we have the email text editing controller. Then we have a password text editing controller. And when we click on the login button, we go to our home screen. But right now, no functionality of the login is added in this application. And we will be using Firebase to add the authentication part to our project. So let us start by creating a Firebase project in our Firebase console, and we will be using the latest method to add Flutter as the Firebase platform. So let me just open my browser, and you can see this is our browser. I will create a new project in our Firebase console by clicking add project, and I will name this as Pokedex Riverpod because I'm using Riverpod. You can name whatever you want. Okay, select an account. I want my default account for Firebase, and then I will click create project, and let's wait till Firebase creates a project for us. And now our Firebase project is done. You can see new project is ready. I will click continue over here. This is our project console over here, and you can see this is the left side project pane, and as you can see we have the new extensions that was released on the Firebase Summit 2022. We won't tackle them right now, and we are using the Spark plan, which is a free plan. Create authentication first because we are going to need our Firebase authentication. So I will click authentication over here, and I'm going to start the authentication. This will create the authentication on the console. And right now I will just have the native providers, that is email and password. We won't go deep into our Google sign in and anything right now. So our email and password is done. We will see about multi-factor authentication later on, and I will also turn the Firestore database to add the data that we get from our users when they sign up. And let me just create the database as well, and we will start in the test mode. You can later on change the rules and use the production mode, and I'm going to use US Central as well. Okay, now you can see our database is ready. Over here also it says your database is ready to go, just add data. I'm going to close this. We have added authentication. We have also added Firestore database. And now let us add our Flutter as the project over here. And I don't know why my internet is working very slow. So get started by adding Firebase to your app. Now previously we used to add Firebase for iOS, Android and web separately. But now we can do that all together by just clicking Flutter as the platform. And if you haven't done this setup, all you have to do is install the Firebase CLI and just right click open a new page. All you have to do is just whichever operating system you have. For Windows, you can just install Firebase CLI binary for Windows, and for macOS you can just use this command. I've already installed the Firebase CLI, so I don't have to install again. And I guess our Flutter project is already created and we already have the Flutter SDK installed. Make sure that you're logged into your Firebase account. I am logged into my working account. Let me just switch that. So what I'll do is I'll just write Firebase logout, and it will log me off from the account that I have. And let me just log into my personal account. So Firebase login, and it will take me to the web page. Over here, as you can see, it will take me to the web page, and I will select my account. I have to just click allow, and you can see success logged in as shribhagwat94 at gmail.com. So this is my personal account that I use, and you can see now our login part is done. We have already created the Flutter project. I will click next over here. Now, after installing the FlutterFire CLI, you have to make sure that you have activated it throughout your project and it is globally activated. So just run this command. You will just have to add the path at the end, and then at the root of your Flutter project, we have to run this command. So I'll just copy this code over here, and I will open my terminal again, and at the root, I'm at the root. I'll just run this command over here. and this will create the project settings for our Flutter application. So now I want it for Android, iOS and web. I don't want it for Mac OS. So I'll just click enter, and this will first fetch if the registration is already created for our app. If not, then it will create a new registration, and if the registration is created, it will just configure the application. Okay. You can see now registering new Firebase iOS app on Firebase project. This is our project. Yes, you can see the files Android build.gradle and Android app build.gradle will be updated. Yes, I want them to be updated. So I'll just hit enter and everything is done. I will click this over here, never. And then there are a few things that we have to do changes over here. So the first thing that I will do is I will open my iOS lib folder and go to my pod file, and I will uncomment minimum platform OS version, and I will change this to 13. Apart from this, I will also have to add some changes which are specific to M1. So below our pod file, I will add these changes. These are some architecture changes that we have to do. First of all, we have to make sure that the deployment target is 12 and above, and have to exclude the architecture for our iOS simulator because our simulator is still in native and not the ARM64. So we want to exclude this ARM64. If you don't do these two things, then your application will fail on the simulator part. Okay. So after this is done, let us come to our Firebase options. Over here, this file is created when we run the Firebase configuration file, and in this file we will get all the default Firebase options. And if we'll scroll, you can see over here that for macOS it is unsupported, for Windows it is unsupported, and for Linux it is unsupported. But then for web we have the configuration file over here. For Firebase Android we have the configuration file over here, and for iOS we have the configuration files over here. Okay, and if you haven't installed our packages, that is Firebase core that we have already done over here, if this file is missing, then our Firebase option will throw some error because you'll have to have the Firebase core package over here. Okay, and they have also shown how we can initialize our Firebase application. So it says Firebase initialize app and default Firebase options dot current platform. Now where do we add this code? We add this code in our main.dart. So let us come in our main.dart, and above our run app I will write Flutter widgets Flutter binding dot ensure initialize over here, and after we ensure that our widgets have been initialized, we will call our Firebase initialization app. So we have to import Firebase core. That is done. So Firebase initialize app, and inside this, as they have mentioned over here, we have to add this default options, and you can see they are also using the await keyword. So we will have to use this await keyword because we have to make sure before our run app function is called, the Firebase is initialized. So I will write await over here, and whenever we use await keyword, we have to also pass a sync over here. And inside this, what I will do is options, and I will use default Firebase options dot current platform. So what happens with this line is that we make sure that our Firebase app is initialized for the platform we are running on. So for example, if we are running Android, then it will take Android options from here. If we are running iOS, it will take the iOS options from here, and if we are running on web, it will take the web options from here. Now let me just pause or stop our application and run it again, so that all these changes that we have done will reload into our application, and then we will move ahead with the login functions. And you can see it says Xcode build done. That means we are not facing any issues from Firebase, and the setup of our Firebase is done. So before login, we have to make sure that there is user present. If there is no user present, we cannot log in. So let us start by creating the sign up function instead. Right? So we have name, email, and password. We will create a sign up function over here. So let us jump on to our sign up screen, and you can see we have a sign up button. So we'll have to add the sign up function over here where we have the sign up button press. And let me just comment out our navigation code so that after clicking the button we won't be taken to our home screen, but the sign up button pressed print function will still show that this button is working. Now as we said that we have to use Riverpod for this, right? So let us create a new folder called as Riverpods over here like this, and I'm going to name these as authpod.dart and all the code of authentication. So let's say creating a new user, login the user, signing out the user, adding the database of the user to our Firestore DB will all come in this file over here. This will be the view model file which will connect between our UI and the model class. And then let us create one more folder over here which we will name as network. So we have created this network folder. So all the networking code will go in this folder. Let's say the functions for our HTTP that we will need to call the Pokemon data, and apart from that the Firebase data and everything, all this will go in this folder, and the river pods will have all the pods that we will create that will create a connection between the networking and the UI screens. Okay, so let us create a new file over here, and I will name that file as Firebase auth. And inside network I will also have one more folder called as abstract. Yeah, so this abstract folder will hold all the abstract classes that we will create for our authentication and networking part. So I will create a new file and I will add base firebase service.dart, and I will create an abstract class base firebase service, and whatever functions I need for this class will be the abstract functions will be declared in this abstract class over here. So let's say we create a function called as login user with Firebase. This function takes two parameters. One is email and one is password. So we created an abstract function called as login user with Firebase, which takes two parameters, email and a password, which is string, and it returns user credentials. This we will get when the login or authentication part is done. We'll also need to create a function which will help us to sign up the users. So we are going to create a sign up user with Firebase. Would be the same function, just the name will be different. We'll also need a logout with Firebase or logout user function over here, and I will also need a bool function which will let me know if our user is logged in or is not logged in. So this will help me to check if I have to show the login screen or I have to directly show our home screen of the application. So this part is done. Now let us come to our Firebase auth class. We will write the functions over here. So first thing we will do is we will extend our Firebase auth class to the abstract class that we have created. And whenever we extend our class to the abstract class, we have to make sure that we import all the abstract functions or methods that we have. So just import all the four methods that we have is user logged in, login user with Firebase, sign out user, and sign up user with Firebase. These are the functions that we will be creating over here. So let us add these functions. So final user credential with a small u is equal to, let us create a variable over here, Firebase auth instance. So we will be reusing this auth instance over here, so I don't have to do all this. Create user with email ID and password. So we'll pass this email, and I've also passed the password. And after this is done, we are going to return user credentials, right? So we have just created a function auth create user with email and password, and we have returned our user credentials. Same function we will create over here for login user, right? sign in with email and password, and return user credentials. Let us also write a sign out function now that we are in this class, so we don't have to change the classes always. Auth sign out. Okay, this is done, and if user is logged in or not. So what this function does is it first checks if auth dot current user. If this current user is not equal to null, that means we have a current user. That means we are logged in. So return true. Else, if this is null, that means we are not logged in. Then return false. Okay. So our Firebase auth class is almost ready. And let us jump to our Riverpod class that we have created. Let us start by creating some of the variables that we will be needing. So bool is loading. At the start, this would be false. Then user credential will be the user credentials that we get from here. And I will create the data that we get, the user's data. So this part is done, and let me create some of the getter functions. These are the getter functions that will be created so that we can call this data from our provider class to our main UI class that we will be needing. Let's add some functions over here. So let us start with this will be a sync function, login user with Firebase. And the first thing that we do is we'll set is loading to true and notify listeners, because we want to make sure that our loading part is done when we click the button, and when this login user with Firebase function is called, we'll have to show a loader, right? Then that part is done. And let me do one thing. Let me just create a function, and instead of this I'll just call, yeah, done. And let us add in our try catch block. So let's say user credentials is equals to await login user with Firebase, and this auth is the auth from our fauth class that we have created, or say Firebase auth class that we have created. Just to make things easier, I will rename this to fauth. So we'll say this is our Firebase auth class and not the auth from our Firebase. When there comes a try, we also have a catch block. So catch over here, first of all I will print for myself and set loader to false. I'll also have to set loader to false over here. So if there is some error, we can try again. If for example user added a invalid email ID, then we have to stop the loader to help, or to make the user to re-enter the email and password that they want. I will return future dot error, which will be e. So this is our login with Firebase function that we have created. Sign up with Firebase. With Firebase, it will again take string Let us create a variable called as is success to be false at start, and user credential is equals to await f auth sign up user with Firebase, and over here also string name that will be passed over here, and same thing that we have to do, set loader to be true so that we can load these things. Final data, the data that we are going to pass to our Firestore DB. So user credentials, in that we will check user and UID. Now after sign up is done, we have to add the user data to our Firestore database. But we haven't created the Firestore DB class. So let us come back to our abstract class and create a base Firestore service. So new file, base Firestore service.dart. Let us create the abstract class. And right now I'll just have two functions. Now let us create one more file over here in our network. The abstract part is done. In the network folder, I will create Firestore service.dart. Over here, add to database, update database. Let us start with add to database over here. So try, and I will write, let us create our Firestore instance as well. So await Firestore instance dot collection. So we'll need this collection over here, and the collection name that we will be passing, collection name, doc name will be the UID that we send over here, and we are going to set the data. Okay, and if we have some error, let me first print, and I'm going to throw an exception over here. Okay, let me go to our base class and create one more function. So let us start with our get user data from Firestore, because we have to get the data as well. So again, try final user data is equals to await. So I'll have to use async as well, and Firestore instance dot collection dot document dot get, and catching the data exception e2 string, and same will be over here. So try. So to update data, we are going to go to Firestore collection name, doc, update. We are going to then print user, catch error. So we're going to catch the error over here. And if there is some error, then add data to Firestore, update data to Firestore, get users data from Firestore. Now here, I will let us create another instance of our Firestore class that we have created. Fstore Firestore service. Add users data. We have data over here, collection name. I will pass the collection name right now as user we have to first make sure that the adding part is done. So let us create a function over here which will return a bool value, add user to, and the data it takes is a data collection name and doc name, and we have to first make sure our value is false, and over here we do the connection part. Add data to Firestore, and data is over here, collection name is also passed, and doc name is also passed. Then value is true, value is false over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this entire structure and I'm going to add that into a try block over here, and then I will return value, and I'm going to use this function over here is success is equals to await add data to Firestore database, and we need doc name, so our doc name will be UID over here that we need to pass. This is the doc name that we created, and if is success, then we are going to return user credentials. We have to throw exception. So now let us use this function inside our class, and before that we have to extract, or we have to make sure that this provider or the output that we have created is accessible to everyone. So now let us come to our screens and sign up screens, and we will use provider over here. Okay, so by mistakenly I added a wrong dependency, and it was Riverpod 2.2, but we have to add Flutter Riverpod 2.2. Can come back to our main dot, and we are going to wrap our Pokedex application into provider scope. So what I will do is I will click over here and I will just click wrap with widget, and I will add provider scope over here, and let us import our Riverpod library, and let us open our Riverpods over here, and we will create a pod that we can use at the end. So this would be a global pod, global provider that we can be used. We have created a variable called as final auth provider, and I have used change notifier provider, and we have auth provider over here. And instead of having a stateless widget, I will change that to a consumer widget. And once we do that, we also get ref object over here. Okay. So we get, okay, now we have to use the provider that we have created inside our sign up screen. So what I will do is let us create a variable. And this auth provider is the global variable that we have created over here. Now if I'll come back to my sign up screen, now in our auth provider, let's say I will just call the function over here, and I should use this name controller over here, name controller, and I will pass this name controller dot text. Name controller dot text. Now let me just refresh this application. Let us just create a user over here, right? Let us just create a user. So I'll just come to our sign up page, and let me just click on sign up, and you can see sign up button pressed. Yeah, so we are getting this null error over here saying null is not the subtype of boolean because we are not returning anything from our add data to Firestore. Because actually we don't have to call add data to Firestore, we have to call add user to database function over here. This function will return a true or false value. So instead of doing this change, I'll just call add user to database. Rest will all remain same. Let me refresh my application now. Come to our sign up screen. Sign up button pressed. Is success. You can see it is true, but no error is thrown over here because I have added a breakpoint. Let me remove this breakpoint, and you can see no error over here. And if I'll open our Firebase console, we have the Shrivan at pk.com Pokedex. You will see we also have the data added to our DB. These 3 users that we have, they have been created over here. Sign up function is done. Let us move to our login function and add the same things that we have done over here. So I'll come to my login screen. Let us again change our stateless widget to consumer widget. Widget ref. Widget ref is the ref that we'll need. I'll also create final auth notifier as ref.watch auth provider, and let us import this auth provider file, and inside our function auth notifier login user with Firebase, and I'm going to pass email controller.text and password controller.text. After this function, we have to navigate. Let's pass then over here, and inside this then I want to navigate. Let us see what we get over here. Now let us check if our login function is working properly or not. And yes, we are logged into our home screen. So our login function is working, and let's do the same thing in our sign up function. But instead of calling the same function again, we will try to use dry principle as much as possible. So I will create one more folder over here. Let's say in our lib, and I will call this say utils. And in this utils, I will create a new file, extension.dart. So we have created a build context extension on build context, and there are some functions I will add inside this build context. So let's say navigate to screen. I will just use bool is replace, then if will also pass a widget, and this will be a named parameter function. Okay, this will be a named parameter function. If replace is true, then what we are going to do is we are going to use navigator dot push replacement builder, and it will send us to this child that we are going to pass. Else we just want a normal navigation, so we just want a normal push where we will go to our material page route. Now that we are actually in our build context, let us create 2 more functions. double get height. In our context, what I will do is navigate to screen. Let me import our build context. Is replace is true over here. Child that we are going to pass will be home screen. And the same thing we will do over here as well into our login. So let me just remove this and Control V. Let me import our build context. Right now I'm just passing this const, but we'll have to remove this. Now no need to have our auth and print statements over here. Let me just use this as well. So from our login screen, I don't need to pass is replace. Now all I have to do is just pass sign up screen. Command S, refresh, and let's try again. Done. So our authentication part is almost done. Just one final thing that we have to do. Let me come to our main.dart. In our main.dart, instead of login screen, what I will do, Firebase auth dot instance dot current user is not equal to null. Then I want home screen, else I want login screen. Now if I'll refresh my application, we won't go to our home screen. We won't go to our login screen because our current user is not equal to null. That means it will show us our home screen always. Let me just do one thing. Coming to our home screen. For now, let me just return a scaffold and app bar that we have, and actions would be icon button where we have logout. What I will do right now, let me just wrap this in a widget called as consumer. This widget has a builder property, and we are going to pass context ref and child. And let me just remove these and this as well. Final auth notifier ref dot watch auth provider. We have to add the sign out function over here. So let's go with that as well. So I will create a function void logout user f auth dot logout, and now we have logout user over here. We'll have to go to our login screen, and let me also import our context that we have created. And you can see we have logged out. How can we check if you are logged out or not? Just refresh the application. If you go to the home screen, that means your login function failed, logged out function failed. But if you're on the login screen, that means in the main.dart, when Firebase is checking for the current user, this is showing null. That means you have successfully logged out. Now, one final step that we have to do over here is to add some loader. So right now I'll start with a basic loader over here. So let me come to my sign up screen, right? This is my sign up screen. What I will do is safe area column here. I will wrap my entire column in another column, and I will name this as stack view. And I'll just come down at the bottom over here in my stack children. I will take center. The center will have a child which will have a sized box of say height 50 and width 50, and its child will be a circular progress indicator, and right now we'll pass color red. Okay, or notifier dot is loading. If is loading is true, then we are going to show a circular progress indicator, else a container. Command S. We have done this for our sign up screen. So let us go in our sign up screen and let's sign for a new user. And you can see even the loader is working fine. After the sign in process is done, we went to our home screen. This is it. This is the login authentication that we have done. So a basic UI is done, and also our basic loader part is also done.